I live in Canada. I remember in high school, because I was poor and I wanted to go to Yale, I was extremely focused on grades. And so my teachers, the word they use for me is ambitious. I'm an ambitious individual. That's essentially a curse word. Canada, I mean, if you can just conceptualize heaven on earth, it would be Canada, right? Extreme wealth, extremely generous government benefits. No one will go poor, no one will starve in Canada. No wars, just complete peace. It's almost heaven on earth. And here is an opportunity for people to achieve eudaimonia, right? Eudaimonia is the Greek term for flourishing. Here is opportunity for Canadians to contribute intellectually to the development of humanity because they have the resources, they have the time, they have the security. No one else does. And so you would expect this tremendous outpouring of human creativity in Canada these past 50 years. In reality, Canadians have, for the past 50 years, chosen to shut off their brains. Okay, Canada is an extremely complacent nation. It's almost like everyone's on Prozac or something. This is Prozac Nation. Canadians are extremely mediocre. I think that after Canada becomes dismembered and joins the American Empire, maybe a generation afterwards, everyone's going to forget Canada ever existed because Canada has made absolutely no contribution to the world. Canada doesn't really matter in the world, and Canadians are very happy to not matter in the world. So now we can understand, if your three religions are environmentalism, multiculturalism, and bureaucratism, then there's only one solution for you, right? Because you can't exploit resources because of your religion of environmentalism. You can't encourage entrepreneurship because of your religion of bureaucratism, right? You don't want to reduce a regulatory state. You don't want to promote individual initiative. So the only solution available to you is mass immigration. And again, a lot of it is just driven by the baby boomers. So now let me explain to you why baby boomers suck. And they suck for three main reasons. The first is that they're the most selfish generation in human history. Second is that they're going to be the longest living generation in human history. And the third is that they want to maintain the empire, right? So let me go through each one by one. Baby boomers are selfish. Everyone knows this. They had the most luxurious life. But the problem is that if you always lived a life of comfort and security and prosperity, you become a selfish individual because you think you deserve all this. Okay. The other thing is that the baby boomers have a religion, and it's an achievement. It's an ethos of achievement and accumulation. The more, the better. The bigger, the better. The more money I have, the better. The longer I live, the better. I need to accumulate and achieve in order to signify my value, my worth. And their greed, their selfishness is destroying the environment, it's destroying the economy, and ultimately it's going to kill their children. Okay, so that's the first thing. Baby boomers are extremely selfish. And that by itself is not really a problem. The problem is they're not dying. And I can understand why, okay? Because at home, I'm living with my dad. And my dad is in his early 80s. And as I said previously, he's had this terrible life. 10 years ago, he got diagnosed with Parkinson's. 5 years ago, he had a bad fall while using the bathroom. And now he's paralyzed. And we really thought 5 years ago, that was it. He had a few months to live, but he's still going. And so he has Parkinson's, he's basically paralyzed, and he's living his best life. All his life, he's worked slave wages, minimum wage, and now he's collecting a very generous pension from the Canadian government. It's free money for him. He has access to the best healthcare. Honestly, if we had to pay for the healthcare, we couldn't afford it, and he would have died 5 years ago. But now, because it's all being paid by the Canadian government, he spent 6 months at a really nice hospital with his own room. Every day, a physical therapist comes to the house and helps him regain some muscle control and does some cleaning for him. And really, it's his best life. And in his house, he has his own house. And because of all this immigration, he's seeing the property value go up. He's seeing himself getting wealthier and wealthier. If you're a baby boomer who's been taught that what matters is achievement and accumulation, why would you give up now, right? As your life gets better and better, why would you give it up now? So even though, he's bedridden all the time, I see him clinging to life. And I can understand why, because he's been through so much crap and now he can really begin to enjoy himself. This is really heaven on earth for him. So he doesn't want to die. Okay? But it's not just him, it's the entire generation of baby boomers. Millions and millions of them. And in Canada, they're a quarter of the population. So they control all the political power, they control all the wealth, and therefore they can dictate government policy. I have a friend in New York City, a very famous person, extremely wealthy, like tens of millions of dollars. And she's 90 and she has Alzheimer's and she can't walk most of the time. She's sleeping. She's semi-comatose basically. And I thought, any day now she could die, but I've been thinking that for the past 10 years. And one day I asked my cousin, who's a doctor, listen, if you're 90 years old and you're senile, you have Alzheimer's, you can't get out of bed, but you have unlimited wealth, how long can modern medicine keep you going? Like, how long can you survive? She has like 4 full-time caregivers to make sure that, she's taken care of. And my cousin, the doctor, said to me, she can go on for another 20 years at least. Another 20 years at least. So these baby boomers aren't dying, okay? So the baby boomers have captured all the wealth of society, and they refuse to share any of it because of their achievement ethos, and they're not dying. So, but then there's actually a much bigger problem, which is that baby boomers are wedded to the idea of empire. Last year, I was in Brooklyn, visiting some friends. I got invited to a party, and this party was full of China experts. So apparently, every China expert in the world is from Brooklyn. So after COVID, when they were forced out of China, they all returned to Brooklyn, and so I met all of them at this party. And I was talking to one lady, very, very, very wealthy, comes from a very powerful family, and and she was a baby boomer, and I discussed with her. We were talking individually, one-on-one. I said to her privately my fears about the American political system. I said my fear is that given the trajectory of American foreign policy, which is like extremely non-existent, I said there's a danger that America could be fighting wars on 3 major fronts. America could be fighting simultaneously Russia, Iran, and China. And then she looked at me and said, that's fine. We're America. We're the indispensable nation. We can do this. We can take on all 3 and defeat all 3. Does not matter. Okay? That's the arrogance of empire. All right, so let me give you an image of what empire is. And for this image, I'm going to draw on the play The Bacchae from Euripides. If you have not read Euripides, you must read Euripides, one of the greatest playwrights in human history. So he wrote the play The Bacchae about the year 400 BCE. This is like after the Peloponnesian War, when Athens, the Athenian Empire, which had become basically a mafia state, basically decided to go to war against the entire world. Thousands and thousands of their young people died in these wars of empire. And so Euripides wrote the Bacchae almost as a critique of empire. And so the ending of the Bacchae goes like this. There's a religious festival in the mountains, and these women are all drugged out, okay? They're hallucinating. And as part of the religious festival, they sacrifice a man who's the king of Thebes, Pentheus. And so what they do is they capture him, they rip him apart, okay? They physically rip him apart. They rip up the limbs, they rip up the legs, they dismember him. And the person who rips off his head is actually his mother, Agave. And after she does this, she becomes ecstatic. And she takes the head and she runs back to the city of Thebes, and she proclaims to the citizens, look at what I've done. And she's holding the head of her son, Pentheus, in her right hand. And she's saying to everyone, this is a lion's head. You see how brave, you see how powerful, you see how virtuous I am for fighting a lion and ripping his head off. And then everyone looks at her aghast. They don't believe that she can't see the truth. And so finally her father, Cadmus, has to tell her, Agave, that's not a lion's head. That's the head of your son. So that's what an empire is, okay? If you want to know what an empire is, remember the image of a mother holding the head of her son and proclaiming to the world, look how brave, powerful, and virtuous I am. An empire is a system where the old sacrifice the young for their glory. Okay? That's what an empire is. And that's what the baby boomers want. They grew up in a time of the Pax Americana. They don't want to see it die in their lifetimes. They rather burn down the entire empire. They rather sacrifice their own children and their grandchildren than to lose the idea of empire while they're alive. That's why the baby boomers have basically told the American government to launch these wars around the world to save the Pax Americana, because that's the system they grew up in. That's the system they want to die in. The Pax Americana, the Anglo-American Empire. They want to feel virtuous, powerful, and strong, okay? And they don't care if they have to burn down the world in order to do so. And so the question then is, what can we do? Well, you think about it, there's nothing we can do, because as I said, the baby boomers are the most dominant political group in the Western world. They control the political system. They control the financial system. They can control the cultural system. They're our parents. They're the people we love and honor and cherish. I'm not going to say to my father, hey dad, you're paralyzed, your life doesn't have any meaning anymore, and maybe it's time for you to rest in peace, and so that the rest of the world, the young, can have their place. So one metaphor that I think best describes the world we live in is rat utopia. Rat utopia are a series of experiments conducted by James B. Calhoun in the 60s and 70s. And this was a time of growing abundance in the world. And this is the first time in human history when we escaped scarcity, the problem of scarcity. So we want to look at what would happen if we lived in a world of abundance. So they created these experiments, these colonies, where rats were allowed to live in a world of abundance. There were no predators. There was unlimited water and food. And what happened each time he did this experiment, and no matter how he tweaked the experiment, the result was the same. What happened was the social hierarchy that governed the rat colony collapsed. And Calhoun calls this the behavior sink. And very quickly, the rats start to cannibalize each other. They start to engage in all sorts of brutal activities. And as a result, everyone died out. Okay? So no matter how James B. Calhoun constructed this experiment, ultimately it led to the collapse of the rat colony and the extermination of all the rats. And he struggled with this all his life, and he could never really find the answer as to why this was happening. And the only thing that he could hypothesize is maybe water can be infinite. Maybe security, food, luxury, maybe all can be provided infinitely. But one thing that is not infinite, one thing that is a zero-sum game, is the idea of status. And the desire for status is inherent to us. We strive for status. So normally in the state of nature, rats will fight each other for status. And the rats who lose, they'll run off somewhere else and they'll build their own colony, or they'll get killed by natural predators. But in an enclosed environment where the rats can't run off somewhere else, then they're forced to constantly fight each other over and over again for status. Peter Turchin, the social scientist, has a concept for this. It's called elite overproduction. Societies collapse over time because too much elite is being produced, and ultimately they will fight each other for the limited positions of power and status. And so we're living in rat utopia. And quite honestly, this is why young people now refuse to have children. It's not just because the economic opportunities for young people are very limited, are very pessimistic, and they are. The real reason is the baby boomers refuse to give up their status. Think about the politicians in Washington, D.C. I mean, like, many of them, their brains aren't even functioning, and they're still there. And so we live in a time of rat utopia. But again, these people are the ones who gave us birth. They're the ones who nurtured us. They're the ones who we must honor and cherish. So we can never ever blame the baby boomers for what's going on. We blame the immigrants, or we blame the Jews, or we blame the deep state, or we blame Trump, or we blame Justin Trudeau, but we never blame the real culprits, who are the baby boomers. Okay, so the question then is, what can we do? And so I think the only thing we can do is tell the truth. We owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our children to let them know the truth. It was not the immigrants who destroyed the West. It was not Putin or Trump or Trudeau who destroyed the West. It was not the Jews. It was us, because we became selfish, lazy, and corrupt. That's the real reason why the West is dying, and the real reason why no one can do anything about it. Okay? Because we refuse to admit the truth to ourselves. The least we can do is tell the truth to our children, and that's why I do what I do.